Hello, Nasdaq followers. My name is Liz Glesko, and I'm your host on this episode of Nasdaq Spotlight. Joining me today is Ramona Ortega, founder and CEO of My Money, My Future, and Wealth Build I, which is a financial technology company dedicated to empowering millennials of color to build confidence in their wealth building and financial communities. Ramona, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Of course. Well, it's definitely a busy time for you and your company. You recently joined us for Nasdaq's Purpose Week. You rang the bell at Nasdaq, and you're also in the middle of your Thrive campaign. So we have plenty of items to touch on today.
Absolutely.
So to get us started and backtrack a little bit, can you talk to us a little bit about what inspired you to start a financial technology company in the first place?
Absolutely. So I grew up, not really learning about money. I have a saying, if you don't learn about money at home, you don't learn about it at school, you don't learn about it, and you make tons of financial mistakes like I did. And so as I sort of went through my career, I did international human rights work for a long time. Then I ended up going to law school, working in the capital markets and in bankruptcy at the SEC. And I learned a lot about finance, and I realized all of the things that I didn't know. And I thought, this isn't complicated, but there's a lot of pieces to put together. And so I decided to start the company with the mission of really providing that financial guidance that was not only culturally relevant, but really accessible, right? How do we translate what we call complex financial transactions or products into things that people can understand, like, oh, I actually need a life insurance, and here's the difference between the two, right? So it was really about how do we bring good quality financial advice and leverage technology to do that.
Great. So one thing that you touched on is that sometimes financial education begins at the home. So I know that a big PowerPoint in your story is your Hispanic background. So could you tell us a little bit about how your Hispanic background plays a role in some of the challenges that you're addressing with your company, My Money, My Future?
Absolutely. So we initially started with a focus on the Latino market. And one of the reasons that we did that is you all know that there's a huge sort of wealth gap. It's about $100,000 in terms of the gap between Black and Latino families in terms of net worth. So it's something that we wanted to really address because everyone should be participating in the financial markets. Doing well and doing good is something that we believe in with the company and with the Thrive campaign. And so, that has informed my my mission, and we have now pivoted to really being the financial advisor and guidance for the 99% because so many people need good quality financial guidance. But I think that it's really important to acknowledge that we have a wealth gap. I mean, women are underinvested, Latinos are underinvested, and I think that for me, it's really about also making sure that my community had access to the tools and the resources to build wealth, given that they contribute so much in terms of the economy. And by the way, there are large growing demographic. If they're not involved in the capital market system, we're going to start to see the repercussions of that in terms of our economic sort of stability and mobility.
Exactly. So looking back at your background, you were on Wall Street. You do have your Hispanic background. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the game changers that were for you when you were starting My Money, My Future, whether it was education, exposure, access to capital?
Sure. It's been a long journey. As you know, less than 2% of women of color get venture capital. So it has not been an easy journey. And that's part of wealth creation, right? Is having access to networks with capital. So I think for me, it was really about building my community and building an ecosystem. And I think that's true in finance generally. People need to feel like they have someone they can turn to for trusted advice and guidance. And it's the same thing in terms of building my company, was that I had to find those people that were going to kind of shepherd me through the process. And we had to pivot at some point and say, okay, what are we doing? How are we going to do this different? And those are, I think, the moments when that kind of guidance is really important. I would say that the networks that I've joined and been a part of, the organizations, including things like Nasdaq. I've been on Nasdaq shows a couple of times to talk about our company, and those are game changers because they really elevate your brand and the company and your mission.
So we are a very proud partner of yours here at Nasdaq. Can you tell us a little bit about having a partner like Nasdaq plays a role in helping you scale and grow My Money, My Future?
Absolutely. I mean, there's something to be said about a trusted brand, and Nasdaq is a trusted brand. And so we are incredibly proud and honored to be part of the Purpose initiative and really redefining investor identity. This is such an important piece of changing financial education. It's one that I think that we don't talk about enough because people need to feel empowered, and identity is part of that. So we are very excited to have started this partnership, and it made complete sense. It was almost like a partnership made in heaven, really, because we've been doing this work. Nasdaq is saying, hey, let us help you scale. And the name brings a ton of credibility, and it allows us to leverage partnerships, to leverage other financial companies, and to really bring that sort of national recognition to something that I think right now is top of mind for everyone.
That's great. Well, we believe that behind every strong company is a strong purpose, and My Money, My Future definitely has that down. So together with Thrive, you are on a mission to empower about 1 million Latino and Black millennials. So can you tell us a little bit about, once you reach that goal, which you're going to do, what's next?
Yes, we hope to be reaching that goal, and we're going to be doing that with the support of the foundation and working with ERG groups, and that's really the distribution and the scalability part here, is that we see the need in what we call first movers, those millennials who are maybe first in their family to get a corporate job, first in their family to get stock options, right? And how to navigate some of that so that they can really build wealth in their communities. And once we hit that goal, I mean, there's so much more to do, right? This is not a sort of a one workshop, one panel kind of initiative. This is how do we give people the skills and the ability to then take that to their families, their communities. And I think there's so many more things that we could be doing. We see wealthbuild.ai as the next iteration of a continuation of the work that we're doing, providing financial guidance in one's back pocket, essentially, using AI. But more importantly, I think that the work of financial education and the work that we're doing through Thrive, we're talking about 4, 5, 6 years of work that can be done to really change policies and practices so that one day people are going to their work, their HR companies, and they're getting this financial education as part of that HR benefit.
Yeah, definitely. So right now we are in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month. And at Nasdaq, we're celebrating alongside with our Adelante Employee Resource Group, which you mentioned, employee resource groups do play a large part in advancing these communities. For those Hispanic entrepreneurs who are listening, what is advice that you would give to them who are looking to start their own companies?
Yes, I talk a lot about this in particular because I think it's so important that founders have not only a mission, but really have a problem they're trying to solve that is impactful, right? Because that's going to carry you in the long run. Entrepreneurship is a very long journey, and have already pivoted once, so believe me, I know. I think that it's be clear about the problem you're trying to solve, and then be clear about who you're solving that for. Because even with millennials, for example, we talk about millennials, but millennials are very diverse. It's the most diverse generation ever. So being, I think, very focused early days on who exactly is going to be your first customer and why they're going to be your first customer. And then matching that product. What is it that they need to get them to an action that you want them to take, right? So the kind of theory of change is really important, right? If we want more investors in the markets, if we want to have better investor identity, what is it that people need to get there? Right, and that's how I think about building products and then building companies. The mission of the company helps to guide you. It's your North Star. And then really the product market fit comes with understanding intimately your customer. And for me, And I'm always essentially building for myself and my community, right? And then you scale that out, the demographics match what we're trying to do, which is that most people need access to good financial advice. There's no one that they turn to right now, and so we're going to hopefully build that product for them.
Can you tell us a little bit about your current campaign, Thrive?
Absolutely. So we came to Nasdaq with the proposal of doing this campaign, and the idea was really, how do we move people from just surviving to thriving from an economic standpoint, right? Because we talk a lot about financial health, and financial health is a really baseline table stakes. We need to get that in place. But more than that, how do we get people to build wealth, right? And that's going to sometimes be complicated. There's many different pieces, including investor identity, which is, how do I become an investor? How do I identify as one so that I'm empowered to make different financial choices? And the way that we are sort of distributing that content and getting to our mission is really working in communities, because one-on-one, you can't scale that, right? And so the idea of working with ERG groups, in particular at companies, large companies, was one way that we could reach people sort of en masse. So bringing workshops, bringing seminars, and getting access to our investment boot camp was really important. But we're also working in communities. So we are doing these activations across the country called Money Makeovers, specifically for young women, because that is such an important demographic for us. Young women we know are underserved by financial institutions and are under sort of represented in the capital markets. So we want to make sure that during their 20s and 30s, they're really taking advantage of the opportunity to invest and to really develop their investor identity.
Well, Ramona, thank you so much. As we know, education does play a huge part in even knowing what challenges to address, which is a great part of your story of My Money, My Future. So thank you for joining us on this episode of Nasdaq Spotlight to educate our communities about the importance of empowering millennials of color in their financials.
Thank you so much.